Hey, it's Brock here with Uncommon Aquatics, and today we're going to be adding some new fish to the 125 gallon. I love big aggressive fish, but I also love beautifully aquascaped planted tanks. And that's what this is going to be. This is going to be a planted tank, and I set it up as a community tank. And I've never done a big community tank like this before. But somewhere along the way, I said, you know, what would go good in a community tank is small dwarf cichlids that are peaceful and don't hurt plants. And I just keep leaning in harder and harder, which I just fed this end. All the fish are down here. I should put some food down here so you can see the fish while we talk. Matter of fact, I think I'll do that. The further along I went, the more I'm leaning into these mid-size peaceful cichlids as being just an awesome choice for a planted tank like this. I've got a nice chunky, about 3.5 to 4 inch blue acara here at the front. I've got a geophagus. I also have a yawaru, which is going to be too big for this setup, and he is a plant eater, so he's going to end up living somewhere else. But I've got this awesome mix of fish in here. I've got 2 polar blues, which are a hybrid between a convict and a parrot. I've got the geophagus tapajos. I've got 4 blue acaras. I've got 2 koi angelfish. I've also got a festivum, which is a really cool mid-sized cichlid. I've went over all this stocking before. Right here's a crebensis. I'm not going to list everything in the tank. What today's video is showing you what we got that's new. Now, since I set this 125 up, I really haven't lost any of the fish I've put in here, except for 2. And the 2 fish I lost were both ram cichlids, and I don't know if that's a coincidence or if there's something about those ram cichlids and their water parameters. My water is hard and a little bit acidic, and I don't know, and I keep it at 78, which I think they like a little bit warmer water. But ram cichlids are perfect for this aquarium. So I don't want to just give up on it. I also don't want to keep buying fish that aren't going to last in my aquarium. Now, my favorite local pet store, the shop owner is very knowledgeable. And we talked for a while today, and he led me towards trying the Bolivian ram. Now, the thing about the other ram cichlids is, it's going to be hard to get this guy up close, but I'll get you a shot of him in the aquarium. The Bolivian rams get a little bit bigger, and he said they aren't necessarily friendly with the other ram cichlids. If I wanted any other type of ram cichlid, I could have 4 or 5 of them in here. But not with this one. If I have the Bolivian, I shouldn't get the others, is what he told me. Now, I'm actually keeping mainly 1 of each species of a cichlid in here because I don't want breeding behavior. I want this to be a community tank, and once you have a breeding pair, that usually breaks up. So the acaras, I'm looking for them to pair off, and then they're going to get their own acara breeding tank. But I decided to go with 1 larger Bolivian ram instead of trying to do multiple smaller ram cichlids. Then next, we have one that you don't see a whole lot of, but if you search for peaceful community tank cichlids, you'll find him. Now, his coloration's kind of disappeared since he got bagged, but he's been at the fish store. I ordered these, and I was on vacation, and these have been at that local fish store for 10 days. So I don't really have to worry about quarantine or anything like that. I know technically some people quarantine a lot longer than 10 days, but I feel pretty good about that. But whenever I got to the store to pick him up, that Keyhole cichlid has a dark bar across the eye. Looks a little bit like a ram cichlid, but body type is more like the festivum. In the bag, his colors have kind of lightened. We'll see how he changes over time. Then this guy is something that I don't normally do, which is buy a fish without doing all the research, but I trust the store owner on what he told me. This is a brashardy cichlid. Now, the reason I don't know much about him is because I got 2 pieces of conflicting information. And this guy that sells me, or that orders my fish for me, he's sharp on his species. everything off the top of his head. He knows all the information. Well, this one, he told me it's a brashard cichlid. He also called it a daffodil cichlid as the common name. Whenever I search brashard cichlid, I'm finding like a I'm going to mess up the scientific name. Some type of brashard cichlid, and it's called a princess cichlid. The daffodil cichlid, I'm finding something else. So I'm not sure which one this is. I'm going to have to get a up-close look at him and then do my research. But he's a small, peaceful cichlid with a great shape and long, kind of split fins. Really sharp-looking fish. Hey, before we get too far, I'm setting up an aquarium wall right next to the 125 that's going to have a bunch of aquariums on it. It's going to have one tank that's either a 180 or a 220, and then it's going to have shelves that are like 4 40-gallon breeders or 255s or some 20 longs turned the other way. I'm setting up a bunch of aquariums, and I want your advice on what to put on them. I'm looking at probably breeding bettas, having more room for the fry grow out on my guppy breeding. I'm gonna probably do a solo tank for a large puffer. I'm gonna breed acaras. I wanna do quite a bit of breeding, but I also want one big like monster tank, and then I want some unique single species setups. So what I'd like from you is feedback on if you were building out something like that. And in my next video, I'm gonna show the shelving and all that, or in the next week, I'm gonna show that, what I'm setting up. I'd like to hear from you guys. What's the most interesting thing you'd like to see me do in this setup? But for now, let's get these guys out of the bag. They've been floating for about 15 minutes. That is the Keyhole cichlid. I think he's a perfect match for the other fish in this aquarium. Temperament is very peaceful, nice coloration. It's a contrast fish, where it's a light and a dark rather than a colorful fish, but I enjoy that, and I've got a couple more that match with him. Next we have the Bolivian ram. And I know that it used to be the advice that you slowly add water to your bag to acclimate the water conditions between the bag and the aquarium. And people have stopped recommending that, but I still do it. Right now I'm just pouring aquarium water into this bag so the ram can adjust. He's already temperature acclimated. Now I'm trying to acclimate him if there's a pH or a hardness difference. I don't know why. I know that people don't want you pouring your aquarium water or your fish store water into the aquarium, but it's always worked for me, and I like to mix that water in the bag. It's one of those things that I do it because I've always done it, and it feels like it makes sense. All right, here goes our Bolivian ram. Oh man, is that a nice looking fish. Body shape, it makes me think a little bit of the geophagus with the way that slope on the forehead is. One thing to note about this Bolivian is he's more of a healthy size when I introduce him to the tank. The other two rams were maybe the length of a dime, but obviously thinner. And that's small like this brashard is. A geophagus right next to that ram. See, they're about the same size. Hoping he'll... Usually, if a fish is active and eating as soon as they're put in, that's a very strong sign. I mean, you can have fish that are shy at first and then still turn out great, but it's such a strong signal whenever they're active as soon as they go in. All right, let's let out the brashard. Okay, I would say these are beautiful fish that will make great additions to this aquarium. I hope that they all make it and thrive. I'd be really disappointed if there's something about what I'm doing or my water conditions that don't allow me to keep rams. I don't think they're an expert level fish, but they can be a little bit harder to keep maybe than some of your beginner fish is what I've read. And I've been keeping aquariums and keeping fish for 30 years. Well, over 20 years. And I've kept about everything, but I've never kept these smaller, peaceful South American cichlids. I've done Africans and I've done the big South American cichlids. So these are kind of new species to me, and I'm excited to see how they do. I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.